Hi guys, I'm going to teach you how to wrap your hands in this video and talk a little bit about why we wrap hands and what it does for you. So get right into it. You see I'm holding some very long wraps. It's been my experience that anything shorter than 180 inches or what they call a 4-meter wrap is just too short. Like get all that fabric. Some people have bigger hands and bigger wrists, so their wrap will be a little bit different, but don't worry about that. You got little wrists, still get the really long wrap, and I'll show you how to spend that extra wrap that you'll have. The other thing is I like the wraps that are a little bit of a thinner profile fabric and they have a little bit of stretch. Sometimes those are called a Mexican style wrap. If you get them that are too bulky, by the time you get it wrapped around your hand, you can hardly make a fist. So a thinner fabric with a bit of stretch and 180 inches and you're on your way. So let's get into actually wrapping your hand. So I'm gonna put this thing around my thumb. And the first thing I'm gonna do is take care of my wrist a little bit. There's 3 things we're trying to protect. We're trying to protect our wrist, the bones in our hand, and our actual knuckles. Now when you're hitting pads and stuff, you're very unlikely to hurt your knuckles. You're not very likely to hurt the bones in your hand, but there's some risk of hurting your wrist. A little bit of tweaking or moving of your wrist is going to potentially cause injury. So we try to lock that nice and straight. So we're going to start with the wrist. From the thumb over the back of the hand to start, and I'll go 1, and the next. Now right here, if I do this too tight, if I squeeze this really tight, well, blood flows get into my hand, my fingertips, through the bottom. So you got to be careful not to wrap too tight. You want things to be taut, but not tight. So don't try to reef the thing so that your fingers turn white and don't go back, okay? You just want, again, nice taut wrap. 2, 3. Now the third one, go up the wrist a little bit. And the third one will go down the wrist a little bit. Now on that third one, I'm gonna go all the way to my pinky knuckle. And then I'm gonna go around my knuckles twice. Once I get around my knuckles twice, you can see I'm out by the index. I'm gonna make a fist. And I'll take the wrap and go over the punching knuckles. Now the punching knuckles are the index and middle knuckles. So I'm gonna cover those with the fabric and then I'm gonna go down the back of the hand. And I'm gonna finish this wrap. And you'll notice that I don't have that final wrap I did doesn't cover the pinky knuckle, and that's okay. I'm not gonna be hitting with that. If I do, it'll be just a bit, okay? So I'm gonna keep it going here. I have this extra skin on my thumb. I wanna try to cover that up. And most places I've seen teaching how to wrap hands would have you go all the way around the thumb like that. It's been my experience that ends up with a bunch of fabric that I just don't like the feeling of. So I figured this out on my own, take it or leave it. I go from the bottom of my thumb, over it, and around the palm. And then I go around the thumb to the bottom and around the wrist. And if you've done everything correct so far, you're at your thumb, ready to go back up your hand. This is where we're gonna go between the knuckles. Some people don't go between the fingers like this, but I think it's essentially necessary because in our classes, you're gonna be taking your gloves off and putting them on. Now, if I was gonna wrap my hands and just have them wrapped with gloves on the whole time, wouldn't be a problem, but every time you take your gloves off, if you don't go between the knuckles, your wraps end up slipping off the end of your fingers. So by going from the thumb up, I went into the pinky there, that's gonna lock the wrap in place so it can't slide up my fingers. This is something I've been doing this next little bit. You can take it or leave it. You can go right to the index like so and go over the punching knuckles again, but what I like to do, and it's a lovely feeling, is to take the wrap and just grab all that stuff and pull it through. Yeah, it's a process. And now, that's not going nowhere. I can let go and this thing's just gonna stay there, so I don't have to worry about it falling off. Out to the index again. Make a fist. Over the punching knuckles. It's gonna start to look like a pattern. I get to here. Now this is where, depending on the size of your wrist, if you've got big fat wrists and banana fingers, well, you might just go right up to the next fingers. But if, like me, you're a little more delicate, you go around your wrist once, you can get a little extra wrist wrap in there. Now, I'm gonna open up, I'm gonna go here. I haven't done the middle yet, and that was on purpose, okay? I like to do that one last because it's just a nice even look at the end of it. So I've gone between the middle and index. I'm gonna do that wrap through thing again. And now you're gonna start to notice that it's creating a bit of a handlebar, what you might call a fist filler. Some dork in high school said, oh, if you hold a lighter when you hit somebody, you can hit harder. They weren't wrong. Having something filling your fist stops the bones from moving around, so creating a fist filler with your wrap should do that as well. Instead of having all this useless fabric down your palm, you put it in this nice little bar here, okay? So again, you've done that same process where out the index, you make a fist. You go over the punching knuckles. You go down the hand. I'm gonna go around the wrist again. I think I have that much wrap to spend. And I'm gonna go through those last 2 fingers, and again, I'm gonna bring it through. So now, we've done everything we need to do on the knuckles, essentially. I'm gonna go out the index and make a fist. And just so I don't have this, I wanna get those punching knuckles in a nice clean wrap, so I'm gonna wrap this over those punching knuckles, and it's a nice clean look, hopefully. Now I've got all this wrap left, and like I said, we're gonna spend that on our wrist. So if you're more on the delicate wristed side, you just have more wrap to spend. That's not a problem, just more protection. So depending on how much you have, you can work it up your wrist. And every video, except for this one, is gonna tell you that your final wrap should be way up here on your wrist. And I've never figured out why. Having the wrap way down here or up here on my wrist, I mean, I can still move my wrist around pretty good. It's protected, but this does nothing except maybe it's aesthetically pleasing. So it's been my personal preference that once I work my way up my wrist, I work my way back down to the joint, and I use the Velcro over the actual wrist joint itself. And if you do that and compare it, you'll notice that you're a lot more locked in place, all right? That's how I wrap my hand. When you start, it's gonna be like 5 minutes a hand. Practice, sit on your couch, watch this video, pause it, rewind it, do it over and over and over again. And when it still doesn't look like mine, that's okay. Just come to class anyways, and eventually you'll get real good at it. You might even find little tricks to doing it in a way that works better for you. But that's how you wrap your hands.